All right, we are recording. Thank you everyone for coming to the Traffic Transportation Community Board Meeting 8. We're being recorded. Is anyone available to take notes?
Take minutes. I'll do it. That'll be my last step.
Appreciate it. Is everyone okay with the 7 o'clock time, or would 8 be okay? Or 7's fine?
7.
Okay. All right, so there's the agenda, and I'd like to welcome everyone. And now, item 2, I'd like to approve of the committee minutes, of which are printed out there, if everyone had a chance or has any opinion or comment. Yes, Rosemary.
I think there were, it was a kind of a strange meeting in that there was no recording of it for the first 20 minutes or so. My personal opinion is that should be recorded in the minutes. Also, I do not know what the practice of this committee is, but guests who were finally let on after 20 or 25 minutes are not listed as being part of the truncated meeting. And I would include myself, and there was a co-op president from, I think if you double 3616 or 3666 Henry Hudson Parkway, attempted to get on and finally did get on. So again, I don't know what the practice. I'm sorry. I'm not. I know what other committees do. If guests come, they usually get their names there. Whatever the practice of the committee is, if that's the practice, then my name should be done, and the co-op president from that co-op should be on the minutes. Yeah, Sylvia's there. I know Sylvia was not absent, so okay. Again, but Sylvia can speak for herself. I know that she was there. I think. Let me see. There was.
You could just go against the roster and we can amend that.
Okay, and then where are my notes? Okay. So when it came to old business,
yes.
It is. I have no problem with what is there.
Go ahead.
Okay. I have no problem with the wording that's there, but it's not a complete recording of what was stated. I'm the one who raised the issue, and New York State DOT was supposed to be in attendance to give reasons for why the sidewalk was not open. That's not recorded. I said I have no problem with what's there, but it's incomplete as to what the discussion was and what started the item. So those are the things.
We'll look at it again. Thank you, Rose.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to speak out of turn, but I can't see where the hand button is.
Reaction.
I'd like to raise my hand.
Reaction. I recorded that meeting myself, and I hit that button from the start, so it was recording. It had ready.
Well, it didn't. Okay.
Can I?
To the chair to acknowledge who speaks. It's up to the chair to acknowledge who speaks.
He acknowledged me.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
I recorded that. The recording was on from the start, right? And we all saw you up there, so you were there. The only thing that wasn't showing was the people in the room who were in the room, and that. But other than that, you were up there. All guests were shown the last time. So that's.
Right. We'll take a second look at that.
Josh, may I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Sylvia.
Obviously, I was in the waiting room for the entire meeting. So was Rosemary and also the gentleman from 3616. We were not let in to the meeting. We did not see the SAPO. We did not see the discussion about anything until it was made aware, somebody was made aware that we were still waiting in the waiting room. At which point, Kelly asked if Rosemary had any additional remarks about her issue, and kind of was put on hold because she was not allowed to actually say what she wanted to say. I was there. I did not get a chance to speak, nor did the gentleman from 3616. I don't know what was wrong with the recording, Mary Ellen, but it did not start at 7 o'clock because I went on at about 2 minutes after 7 and ended up in the waiting room for the entire meeting. When Kelly gave the report at Wave Hill, that was the first I heard of what went on at the meeting. That was not recorded. It was never on, what is that called? Where we
YouTube?
have our videos, like YouTube. And that should be noted in the minutes that we were not allowed to attend the meeting. I don't know why, but I think it should be mentioned. I don't think that it should just be swept under the carpet.
Thank you, Sylvia. Yeah, please.
Josh, I make a motion that we amend the minutes to reflect that there was a malfunction in the, recording, and I will amend the minutes since I have the soft copy on my computer. I can make that adjustment
Agreed.
and resubmit it.
Sounds good.
I second that motion.
Motion approved, yeah. We will move forward.
With that understanding?
Understanding?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All in favor? Yeah. Aye. Great.
Aye.
All against? No one. So we will have that motion to amend the meeting. Thank you.
Before we continue,
Yes, Kelly.
because, Rosemary did make a statement earlier in the minutes for the Traffic and Transportation Committee, Rosemary, it was not customary for us to include guests, only, agencies or elected officials
Oh,
were
that's,
included.
once again, I
No,
didn't
that-
know what
that-
the practice was.
So now I'm giving you the
Okay.
practice. I'm not being contentious, not being argumentative, just sharing information, okay? I yield to you.
Thank you. Okay. So now the report. We don't have any speaker. I would like to get a speaker from the DOT, Mr. Perez, Commissioner of the DOT.
Teresa Cruz is on the call. She's from DOT.
Oh, Anthony Perez is there. Great. Oh, terrific. So did everyone sign in?
Yeah, but I think that's.
Call attendance, roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Okay. Oh, we're missing, Margaret Della. Okay, so Sylvia, online?
Yes.
Present. Debbie Allen. Kelly, present. Chris Calhoun is not present. Wayne? Thank you. And Margaret Della, not here. Ingrid, thank you. And Mary Ellen and Rosemary, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Terrific. Okay. Now, when would we have Mr. Perez?
He's there.
If we can, thank you for joining us for the meeting.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor, and we'd love to hear from you.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation to speak at today's meeting, and congratulations to you as the new chair. I'm looking forward to work with you on this committee and everyone else on the
Thank
committee
you.
as well and in the room. I mentioned last time when I was here, the last go around, that CB8 has a particularly close part of my heart. I grew up in NYCHA housing in CB8. I grew up in Marble Hill houses. My mother still lives there. I learned how to ride a bike in Van Cortlandt Park. I learned how to swim there as well. It's the neighborhood that I grew up in, and I went to DeWitt Clinton High School. So always glad to come back here. And as part of the invitation to come back, I thought it was helpful to share some updates on the last item that I was here to present to this group. So I'm joined here by several of my colleagues. In the interest of time, I'll just introduce them. We have Dorisa Cruz, who's our Deputy Borough Commissioner. We have Renee Luciano, who's our Borough Planner and who works closely with this board. We have Holly Malone, who leads our outreach efforts when it comes to these kind of projects. And we also have Dan Wagner, who's the project lead on the particular project that we had discussed last time on Van Cortlandt Park South and Bailey Avenue. And I think that's everyone on the DOT side. Let me know if I missed anyone. Okay. So yeah, so as folks may recall, the last time we were here, we were discussing a proposal to improve the intersection at Van Cortlandt Park South and Bailey Avenue at the southeast entrance of the park. It's an area that is used heavily by pedestrians and cyclists to get into the park. However, most of the entrances there don't have proper crosswalks, and folks end up walking and interacting with vehicles as they're trying to enter and exit from the highway. After that presentation, we received a letter from this board with some concerns in certain parts of that plan. So we were able to take those into consideration, make some edits, and took into account the feedback from this board. Now, over the summer, we've been doing some follow-up items with our agency partners to move forward with this project. And we've got some updates that we want to share related to that. So I want to pass it over to Dan Wagner, who will lead a quick presentation for you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Audio check, you can hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. I've been in those situations where I start talking and nobody can hear me. All right, I'm going to share my screen, but you're going to have to enable my screen sharing.
I made you co-host of the meeting, so you should have the ability to do it now.
Yes, it is working. Thank you. Okay. I believe you are seeing the presentation, right? Project status update. Okay, so thank you again, Commissioner. And good to see you again, Community Board 8 in the Bronx. I am here to talk about what we already presented a little bit. Since there may be some new people here, I won't go too fast, but I won't dawdle either. And then I'm going to get into a few updates that we want to provide to the board and hear your feedback. So first, we're going to talk about previously presented presentation, but it's a summary of that. It's only a handful of slides. The background is, as the commissioner was saying, is that we have Van Cortlandt Park that has a missing connection between the community, Kingsbridge community, and the actual park, where there is sidewalks and trails and access to walking and recreating. We have some data that talks about how many people are going in and out of this space, and we are also the agency, the DOT agency, has come to you with a presentation about the Harlem River Greenway, and this is the northern terminus of that work, so we can then connect to the Empire State Trail. Actually, there's like 3 trails, which I think I'll get to. I do want to give you a minute to process. This is what it's going to look like in the presentation when you're out there. Obviously, you're on foot. You're not looking down from a satellite, so it's sometimes a little disorienting. But what we have here generally is the Bailey Avenue intersection that I am circling, and then we have Van Cortlandt Park South going east-west, and then we have 2 off-ramps from the Major Deegan and 1 on-ramp to the Major Deegan. Additionally, we have some sidewalks that I was mentioning into the park that come down or lead up into the park up there at the top of the screen, and you'll notice there is a missing connection between the 2. On the left is the Tibbetts Brook project that DEP has certainly been working working on very hard for quite some time, and we are very conscientious of that project as well as a part of this project, because we want to be in and out before they begin to work. So what we have here in this space is a lack of pedestrian infrastructure. That is one of our key points, is that as a member of the community, you cannot safely, legally walk from the intersection of Van Cortlandt Park South and Bailey Avenue into the park. There are worn footpaths, which shows that people are doing this, people want to do this, but that worn footpath is hardly an actual pedestrian facility. We also have poor separation between street and sidewalk near the park entrance, meaning that like when you're walking, you're right on top of that traffic, and that can be intimidating. It can make you very uncomfortable. It can be challenging. And then when you get to the off ramps or on ramps, you literally don't have a safe way to cross the street, because that traffic has the right of way, and the pedestrian or the cyclist, you are the vulnerable user. And you know the traffic can come in at higher speeds sometimes, and the pedestrian is at risk. Additionally, at the actual intersection, we have long crossing distances at Bailey Avenue, where it can be up to 160 feet to cross the southern half of the intersection, the southern portion of the intersection. And, you know, we know that there's a lot of users here because of the park, because of schools, libraries, residential uses nearby. And the actual crossing has what we call channelization. You might call stripes on the ground. But this channelization is like a triangular space. It doesn't offer any actual safety protection. It's just a designation of space that the city uses as a quick response tool, and we would like to try and address that. We also have some bike connections here that are sort of, there's a disconnect in the larger network. So you have the Empire State Trail going to the north, you have the Empire State Trail, I think this is how you head south from this point, and then you also have the Mosholu Pelham Greenway, which heads off to the east or comes from the east. And essentially, if you live in this neighborhood, you want to, you know, that's a destination. You want to get to these spots so you can go in whichever direction you want to go. And there is no actual connection. You can see we've got plenty of photos of bicyclists trying to use this space, and they have to navigate, you know, what is not really what we would normally have as a navigation. This guy is basically signaling that he, you know, please stop, or please allow me to go so I can weave to the left so you can weave to the right and get on the highway. These are not the ideal conditions that are safe for our cyclists. And overall, again, I'm trying to do this fairly quickly because we've already done this once, but you know, long unmarked pedestrian crossings are a concern. Lack of crosswalks and other pedestrian infrastructure is a concern, and then there is no bicycle connection. So that is also something that we think we can address. So the design proposal, this is the new part that I want to talk about. So what we already talked about was the presentation on the right. This is a lot to take in. I'll try and go fairly quickly, but we are proposing to take the off ramps that are highlighted in light green here and relocate them into a closer to what we call a T intersection condition. That T allows for a stop control, and so that way somebody coming off the ramp would stop and then turn right, or coming off the ramp would stop, wait for pedestrians or bicyclists, and then turn right. Or we were actually we're trying to legalize the left turn, so you could do that legally. That would allow us to have a sidewalk on the left side, the west side of the park entrance road, and a sidewalk on the right side. We would also include a off-street bicycle lane from Van Cortlandt Park South to the off-ramp, and then once you get across the off-ramp, it becomes a lot safer, so it would be on-street, and there's less traffic there. We were also trying to figure out a way to make the on-ramp have a what we would call a harder right turn. It doesn't mean it's hard to navigate. It just means that the drivers have to slow down before they actually begin accelerating onto the highway conditions. And this allows for a safer pedestrian crossing at the on-ramp. There's a handful of other proposals throughout this that I'm going to kind of breeze past, but it includes a new concrete island where that channelization is. We had previously proposed closing this slip ramp, which we heard from your board a lot about, and a handful of other minor tweaks that I will skip at the moment, but we can come back to if needed. We heard from the board, and there was a resolution to maintain the slip lane after in 2024 after hearing from the board. So we dropped that proposal for 2024 and tried to move forward with the rest of the proposal. However, we have had some challenges getting our final T's crossed and our final I's dotted through the various places that we need to get approvals for. And that delayed implementation of the project. When we came to you in February, we had said we were hoping to start in April, and we were hoping to start in April. Unfortunately, we were unable to hit that or any month since then due to trying to navigate a number of unforeseen challenges, technical challenges. So we spent a lot of the summer trying to figure out a way to do something here to move the project forward in a way that would still allow us to do the whole project, but we would do it in phases or in pieces. And what we're here to talk about today, the main point is what you're looking at. We are seeking to install a portion of the construction phasing later this year. That is highlighted in pink in the graphic. I will talk you through that. If we are able to get started quickly and there's enough weeks left in the construction season, just to clarify something to you right now, City DOT does not construct unless it's emergencies over the winter. You know, the cold weather is very difficult for construction. So we shut it down usually in December. So what we would hope to do is we would start before December. We would build as much of that pink highlight that you see, and then if there's extra time in the calendar, maybe it's still November, we would do a little bit of the purple as well if time allows. That's to say, and I will talk you through what those are, this is the concrete island in the channelization, the pink island here. We think that's a pretty easy upgrade to do. It allows for pedestrian safety. It keeps vehicles from driving through the channelization, and it allows for pedestrians to wait here while they're trying to cross the street, either north, south, or east, west. We would also begin work on the concrete sidewalk on the east side of this roadway. Part of that is relocating the curb. We're actually widening the roadway temporarily during construction, and then later when we build the bike lane on the west side, then you narrow the roadway. But it's you can't narrow the roadway first. You have to widen it first before you can narrow it. So that's the proposal. The temporary conditions that we would have in this proposal for this fall of 2024 work is to build the sidewalk, but one of the concerns is that the actual sidewalk does not meet an existing or existing sidewalk and does not provide a crossing on the on-ramp or the off-ramp. Those crossings are some of the technical details we're still trying to work out. This would be a sidewalk essentially north-south, getting people who are already doing this movement. It's trying to provide for them a little bit better conditions. We would complete this in 2025, but it's not going to be completed over the course of the winter. So we would install some temporary markings, meaning probably this channelization that you see against the curb. I'm going to move my cursor up and down there. And we would also, as part of this work, we would relocate. There currently is we call it a guide rail. I used to call it a guardrail before I learned it was a guide rail. We would relocate this and reinstall it. What you see here now, if you know this area well, is a lot of big rig trucks, 18-wheelers, will pull up onto the sidewalk. And we are going to prevent that from happening, so that way trucks are not parking in a park. That doesn't make a lot of sense to us. And they'll probably end up parking here instead. That's not an ideal situation either, but at least it's not in the park anymore. And that is a temporary condition over the winter. And then we would return in the spring. So this is an overview of what I was talking about. It's pretty straightforward. This is what we want to do. Everything else is still under review with state DOT. We will also, in 2025, relocate the pedestrian crossing over here from where it exists today. You can see on the right, it exists a little outside the intersection, which is not how we want to design intersections for street safety. We relocate it closer in meeting the proposed island. The timeline that we have on the screen right here is that the project, we would start it in hopefully October. Maybe it'll be early November, depending on how quickly we can get all our ducks in a row. But we would come back to you in winter or spring, if needed, of 2025, and re-present the final design so we can address any final concerns you have. And then we would continue working in 25. And we have to finish by the end of the year of 2025 because DEP's Tibbetts Creek daylighting project is currently scheduled to start in winter of 26. So it's been made very clear to us that we have to be out before they begin. So that is the presentation. If you have any questions, let's do it.
Thank you very much. Great work, Dan.
Thanks.
Any questions, anyone?
Yeah, sure.
Rosemary, go ahead.
Well, did anybody else raise their hand? Okay, a couple, as last time, this was shown, do you have traffic counts for what are the number of cars that are coming off the off-ramps, going on to the on-ramps, coming down Van Cortlandt Park South, going west, making the turn on Bailey? How many are coming on Bailey, making the turn? Do you have the traffic counts for all of the car activity at that intersection?
Yes, we do. I brought them here as an appendix. They are now on the screen. These are the counts that were taken not too long ago, so they're still fresh. And these are the latest numbers that we have. They are shown in an AM and PM format. So like coming off the highway, so I'll just use this one over here as an example. That's telling us that there are 221 vehicles during the AM peak hour. So peak hour in this case is 8 to 9 when it is busiest. And then this is the PM peak hour, so it's 190 in the afternoon. I think it's 5 to 6 p.m. in this case. And these are the numbers that we have. The numbers coming off the highway here are 250, we can round 250, 240, etc. So we can do all the math we want to do to find out any kind of movement you need from here. We also have pedestrian counts if needed.
Just go back to the traffic. So what is the most heavily trafficked movement on that street? What's the most problematic to you as a traffic expert?
Problematic and heavily trafficked are two different things. Do you want one or both?
I'm assuming it's the same thing. You answer any way you want to answer. What is?
All right. Well, the most heavily trafficked is the 450. We'll just round 450 left turns from eastbound Van Cortlandt Park South, turning left to go north and onto the on-ramp onto the Major Deegan.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the number one heaviest movement on this. The most problematic is a very different question. Our traffic model that we've run actually shows that there isn't a problematic movement here per se. Most of the traffic is processing at an acceptable DOT level of service.
So I do see the slip lane that you've left open. Those were heavy numbers, and it probably is a good thing that you left the slip lane open, because to have 500, 600 cars coming up and trying to make a turn was not great. That's my judgment. I'm looking now at Bailey Avenue, where it's down to one lane. Am I right? It's going to be one lane when you put the traffic island in? You're saying only 60 cars in peak AM, 60 cars and buses make that turn? That's it, 60?
Right, and then in the
Am I
PM,
reading the
it's,
numbers right?
that is
Mhm.
correct, and in the PM, it's double that. So the morning isn't as much of a concern for the right-hand turn as the evening is, but it's still not a very heavy turn. Sorry, that.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask one more question, I have it down, but why allow 2 off ramps from the highway? Why not have it just one and come to a T?
I
Why
agree.
two?
That is a great question. I agree with that question entirely. It is much easier and better to have one off ramp, but the state DOT built this in the 60s. I cannot tell you why they did that. And to do anything more than what we've proposed here, this is sort of like the maximum amount of work that in-house DOT budget can allow. You know, you can do anything with enough money, and if this was a capital project, it would be on a much longer timeline with much higher budgets, and in that case, they could reconsider the split ramps, and that would make it safer for everybody, and probably process better too.
I focused on you saying that the starting problem are bikes can't get in there because of all the roadways. If you eliminate one of the off-ramps, bikes could make it in there a lot easier, it seems apparent, but.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, no, I agree with you. That is great.
Sorry it took so
Great
long. Thank
observation.
you.
Okay, thank you for that, Rosemary. Kelly?
Actually, Rosemary asked one of the questions I was going to ask, but, Dan, it would be helpful to the committee and to the community if you could share the updated plans with the office so we can have it, and post it to the website, number one. And number two is when you make your your sidewalks, you mentioned that you were going to create the sidewalk. How is that going to impact pedestrian crossing, in the near term? So when you're doing the work there, how will pedestrians, be allowed to use that intersection, or will they have to cross somewhere else?
That's a good question. No, we will not prevent anybody from using the intersection. We will have temporary reroutes using barrels and Jersey barriers and other safety that will be set up. There will be a little bit of a, pain point during the construction, but we will not close access to anything. The construction, there's always a little, during construction, everyone understands that you got to go a little slower, you got to navigate something a little unexpected, but that should only be for a few weeks.
And let me just add that, this is probably a similar impact to a lot of the work that you see us doing around the Bronx and the city when we're improving pedestrian ramps, and you see us working on the corners to make it ADA accessible. When there's any drain work, it'd be similar to that. Temporarily for a couple of days or weeks, you wouldn't be able to use that corner while the cement is being laid and dried, but it's not going to be like a long-term blockage of using that north corner.
Yeah, it won't be a closed corner either. There'll be a way to navigate it.
Okay, and then, last point I wanted to make, or statement I wanted to make, was to thank DOT for considering the committee's, proposal last year to keep the slip on the west side open. So thank you for that.
Well, let me thank you. It was great to go back and forth and work with you. And listen, I think ultimately we want to show in practice and in action that we're here to be partners, that we're here to work with you. We value the board's feedback. You folks live here, work here, and navigate this. So this is for you and by you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Perfect. Great. If there are no further questions,
You have some members of the
online,
committee.
yes, Brett there. Brett, can you hear us?
Did you call on Jody?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Brett?
okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay. So I just had a question pertaining to the pedestrian. Would it be possible to put a tree there or something rather than just plain concrete?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're always struggling with that. Unfortunately, Department of Parks has a tree planting guideline that prevents us from siting a tree there. And their reasons are namely visibility and maintenance. When you plant a tree too close to the intersection, they have to maintain it a lot more, so that way people can see when they approach the intersection. And this island falls entirely within their no plant zone. If we wanted to find a partner, perhaps some bushes or something low, but we don't, and I know that Parks is not going to cross the street. So that's not an option. But if there's a local partner that you can inform us of that would be willing to maintain the plantings, we might be able to find some space in that concrete island for some plantings.
Okay. I just want to say, otherwise, I love the plan that you have so far, especially the T intersection for the off ramp. That was particularly a sore point for me growing up and using Van Cortlandt Park and the other parks. Just having to cross that and negotiate with the vehicles coming off the off ramp.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Next, Jody.
Hi there. Thank you. I missed the previous presentation, so if these are repeat questions, apologies. Did your traffic study factor in the potential increased traffic? I believe there's a school and an apartment building slated for near there, and there were concerns about the timing of the lights and the traffic. So has that been factored in, the developments that are happening, which will increase traffic?
Yeah, I think a lot of our numbers, I'm not 100% certain on this, but I'm fairly confident that a lot of these numbers that you see here actually came from those buildings' development submission to us on projections. So this should include projections. I can't be certain on that. It's been a long time since I actually spent some time on this, but I believe so, yes.
Okay, if you didn't see it, I made a squinty face because if it is from the school's study, they didn't do it during peak times. We had a lot of issues. I actually did see the actual reports, and so we had a lot of issues with them undercounting the traffic impact because they weren't counting when we knew that there was peak traffic there. So if you could check that, that would be really great, because there's not just the school with hundreds of seats, but the soon-to-be apartment building with hundreds of residents, and it's kind of hard to get from one side of the Bronx to another, so people do use cars in this community.
That's good to know. Thank you for that. I will flag that for some of our traffic engineers.
Great. And then Brett did mention, Brett did mention something I was going to say about possibly a low planting, but having had experience with the 2727 Palisade flooding and DOT putting plantings in, they did want community groups to have like $1 million liability policy. So that's a big barrier to having the community help take care of plantings. It would be a grassroots group or a neighbor that would do it, and nobody's going to pay to have a $1 million liability policy. Is there another way there's another way to engage the community? I'm sorry, I'm also the founder of Friends of Spuyten Duyvil. We do community building activities. We steward multiple parks and green spaces, and we educate people on how to engage and participate in projects kind of like that. So I don't have $1 million liability policy, which is why I said no to taking care of the 27 at Cape Park and Palisade. So any ideas or suggestions?
I can jump in. Let me quickly address the previous question and add to this one. To the previous comment about the projections from the school and the project for the residential complex that's nearby as well. Two things there. One is, I think that was also part of the impetus for the feedback from the board to say that we should keep that slip lane open. So I think that's one of the things that we took into account. The other thing that I want to flag as well, that while it's likely that there would be increase in vehicular traffic, as you mentioned, I'd also say that there's also likely going to be an increase in pedestrian traffic, that we're going to have more kids crossing this intersection. So I just want to highlight that for the record too, that that in and of itself is another reason why this project is so important, because we're going to have so many more residents and students crossing these streets, and we want them to be safer. In terms of your comment about the insurance, I totally hear you, and I get it. You know, I think that's one of the things that we deal with as well when it comes to maintenance of different properties, not just greenery, but even our plazas, our open streets, and other programming. Is that unfortunately, you know, we still have to deal with the issues of liability and lawsuits, and we have to have some sort of arrangement so that's not just, you know, somebody nilly-willy showing up with a lawnmower and random city property. But I would suggest that I think that what I've seen has been successful in other examples is a lot of times a local smaller group will partner with a larger group that may already have that type of insurance. Like, for example, some of the groups that we work with more frequently are folks like the Horticulture Society of New York. These are folks that already do this kind of work in plazas and other areas. It's just a matter of adding another site rather than getting a new insurance plan for folks like them. I think that there might be groups like that that can maybe work in some example like this. But that's just one example that I thought of for this purpose. But we can think more about that and figure out how to make it easier for folks to, you know, have a role in maintaining this directly too.
If it helps you, I'm a steward with the Parks Department. I'm registered. I have a permit from them, and that permit basically says that permit basically says no liability. That we hold the agency not liable for anything that we do or get hurt doing. So definitely, other agencies have tried it.
Yeah, let me talk to some lawyers that are smarter than me to figure that out.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment, I'm sorry, Rosemary.
No, go ahead.
2-minute limit.
No, it's not even that. She mentioned that she was not aware of the study. The study is actually posted to the Traffic and Transportation Committee's website, their previous, study. Their prior presentation.
Yeah. For further information, go to the website. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me just add that it's also on our website. If you go to DOT's website, even if you just Google DOT current projects, it'll list out every single project that DOT has presented to any community board and goes back many years back to.
And this presentation tonight will be posted to that either tomorrow or early next week, depending on how quickly certain people respond to their emails.
Thank you. Okay, Rosemary has another comment.
They're going to share it with the community board, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This is, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is an important proposal. This is very significant. And it is troublesome to me that it was not on the agenda. Putting something on our website, people may think that it takes care of informing the community. I don't think it even comes close to informing the community of this proposal or the fact that they could come and listen to an agency speak and ask their questions publicly. This was not on the agenda. I don't know how we rectify that, but I think we have to rectify that for this proposal.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you, Rosemary. Lay it over. Yeah, we'll have discussions throughout October. It's available for discussion and make it more accessible. Try to get more people involved. Did anyone else have a question about this? Yes, I'm sorry, your name?
Isania.
Spell that?
Izania.
IA.
Okay. So I think that when the board was presented with this information in the spring, they also asked about the newly proposed turning angles that were going to be implemented. And you said that that section is still under review by the state DOT, but is that something that the state DOT is reviewing, the angles that were originally proposed? And I think the question was raised about whether it was appropriate for semis and buses coming off of the highway.
Yeah, that is definitely a part of what state DOT loves to think about, and they are, to be honest with you, the angles are all resolved. The state DOT doesn't have any concerns with the angles, nor does city DOT. They do have concerns that they are currently reviewing about deceleration lengths. We ran the numbers. The deceleration lengths do meet nationally required standards. However, they are still checking our math. That's part of the review.
Answer your question, Azaria? You all set, Azaria? Okay. If there are no further questions, I'd like to thank the president, Dan and Mr. Perez. Thank you so much, and everyone who could join us. It's most appreciated, and we'd like to follow up. And we'll talk to you in the upcoming weeks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, happy to follow up and come back. And I think folks have seen I'm now reaching my 1 year in this role, but you know, we've done walkthroughs, we've done visits, we've come back to do different presentations, so you know how to reach us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night. All right. That was a great presentation. Now, we'd like to move on to the next item, which is the review of the fiscal year. It's actually 2026 budget request. And there's a handout for that if everyone has that or needs it. It's up front.
I don't know, thank you. Am I taking yours?
No.
Okay.
Capital and expense. First page is fiscal year 2026 capital, TNT, the intersection of Broadway and West 230th Street. Does anyone know where that post office is?
Yes.
Under the one train coming off the highway. It's always clogged.
That's definitely number one.
That's our number one. Number two is at the intersection of Riverdale Ave, West 238th Street. Realign, reconstruct the intersection to create safer intersections. How does, any opinions on that? Anyone?
That's definitely needed.
Needed.
Big time.
3, Independence Ave sidewalk, reconstruct sidewalk. We agree on that. Unbuilt portion of West 242nd Street, do you agree? All right. 235th Street sidewalk, reconstruct West 235th Street between Independence Ave and Henry Hudson Parkway. Adding sidewalk on the north side of the street. And sewer. Okay. 5, West 235th pedestrian walkway. Over the Henry Hudson Parkway, West 236, West 235th. 6, Broadway corridor parking study. Conduct a parking study of the Broadway corridor. Understand capital and expense. And 7, West 235th Street countdown clock. Bus shelter. Expense, next page. Safe crossings, increase fundings, paint the sidewalk. That, I don't know if that's been priced. Capital and expense.
Right.
Street crossings, make them safer.
Safe crossings, sir?
Yeah. Safe crossings.
Being besides the BX20.
BX20. Oh, yes, restore full service BX20.
That's been on our list
That's-
for years.
Yeah, that's more a, pie in the sky.
Isn't it the 20 bucks in existence now? I've seen it today, I've been seeing the 20.
Restore full service.
Oh, full service,
It's been
okay.
dramatically cut back.
It overlaps
That's
with
important.
10.
That
No,
is enough to restore it.
it's a suggestion.
Yeah, one, everybody, especially during rush hour, it gets.
Gets you to the A train.
Hold on, if everyone approves of this, we can
I make a motion to approve.
make a motion.
One question,
Yes, Rosemary.
the Broadway corridor parking study, what does that cover? What is the, what's the geographic delineation of the study?
Good question.
It was if I remember correctly, it was 231, 230th on up to the city line.
Hmm,
Yeah, it's pretty extensive.
just, okay.
You have to start something.
So they can come back.
To the city line, yeah, with the.
It's been approved.
I know that, DOT had a list of step streets that were allegedly like in the works forever and ever. And just from last year's, conversations, could we add that to our list of priorities? It is something that they are working on that's good to be funded. And not that it takes up one of our coveted slots, but that we that we emphasize that that's a continued importance, that those step streets are repaired so that people can get up them and down them safely.
Very important for Riverdale, yeah.
Party isn't,
Well, it's more for Kingsbridge. It's more along, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, terrific.
yeah, I think that Farah is working on that as a separate list with, DOT at her, district service council committees meetings.
So, but I would have to follow up.
It became a chunk and was removed, but these were all sent forward in April and were reviewed by the executive committee 2 weeks ago, and voted upon and will be present, and are already, they're part of the CB8 list of expense and capital requests, and they're on the website now for the public to look at and come comment on October 8th, I think it is, before our board meeting.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
it's in process, but they are very useful for thinking about for fiscal 27 through the winter in December, January, February.
The list of continued support for expenses, that is not something that we can push forward.
Well, that's already baked into that which is posted on our website, based on the discussion that we had when you were there 2 weeks ago. That's typically how it's done. But fiscal 26 was basically collated in April.
So it could be for 27.
For new stuff,
It's
right?
been a continued request, that's all I'm asking, because it was a part of the last several years, right?
That's why I asked Artie to double check on that, because you're right, it has been. It's also an anomaly of CD8. There are very few step streets outside of the Northwest Bronx, because we've got lots of hills. And so it's a sort of a different process. And that's what I think Farah has been working on with DOT.
All right. So would like to make a motion? Yes. Second? So having had the second,
I have my hand raised.
Julie, yes?
Sorry about that. Let me. Okay, no, I just wanted to follow up on, it sounds like Margaret's voice. Was that Margaret in regards to the steps? If not, she sounds like, oh, okay, I could barely see you guys. Thanks. Okay, I just wanted to say that, again, we're going to actually finalize it when we vote on the budget, after your budget hearing, David, and then the board will vote on it after the public speaks as well. So that the steps that she's referring to, if it's not on the list already, and if there are slots open, we'll see what Farah has to say, and I don't see the issue in just adding whatever steps you're referring to onto that, and do that mark that the gentleman, when he gave the budget presentation to the exec, how he mentioned that even if it's still being worked on, you could still add it and make a notation to it. Because I don't think that we have a 40 and 25 list, do we, David? Like, is the list filled up totally? I don't think so. I think there are slots that may be open.
There is no technical limit.
Well, it's recommended that we do 40 and 25, 40 capital and 25 expenses, so that if it's not totally filled, I believe that when the public speaks, because we still have to hear the public on, what is it, October 8th? And then the full board will vote on it. If there's space allotted or the board decides to add them, I don't see why not.
Right. Thank you, Julie. So I think we'll have to have that discussion a little bit further about the step streets. I could email you and come to some discussion as we iron it out.
Yeah, I know that has been a long-standing conversation, that has been going on for many years, and like I said, allegedly there's a list. Allegedly it's a priority for DOT, allegedly it's being funded, but it just moves so slowly. And I know that there are other priorities that we have that, because of the feedback we got from the city last year, or maybe it was the year before, that funded priorities that we want to continue to be a point of emphasis. They should not take one of our selected slots, but that they can be provided to the city as a priority area for the community board, that we want those projects to be completed.
Green.
That's
Okay.
correct. We added on to the list and just make a notation to it so that it does not take up the other list. Margaret is correct in that.
Yes. All right, if there are no further comments, I'd like to move on. That's the budget request. Committee organizational business, we'll have to figure out if vice president and, I'd like to have a, secretary, but maybe rotating throughout. Vice chair. Vice chair, not vice president. Vice chair, thank you, vice chair. So we could bring that up at the next meeting. Okay, now moving on to the SAPO application. That is
The Horace Mann Homecoming.
Horace Mann Homecoming, thank you. Whereas David Callen, representing Horace Mann School, attended the Education Library's Cultural Affairs Committee on 2/27 to ask for support for the SAPO application to celebrate the Spring Festival and Homecoming to take place next, I'm not sure when that takes place. So Horace Mann is requesting the street closing of Tibbet Ave between West 246 and College Road from 10 to 7. Whereas the homecoming is usually held in October, could not be held because of severe weather. So we will have to close a section of that street. Would like to vote on that?
You have,
Peter?
Peter from Horace Mann is here.
Horace Mann.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Just a couple of things. The event is scheduled, you may have an old application there. The event is
Yes, I do.
scheduled for October 19th. And we'd be looking just to close Tibbet Avenue between 246th Street and College Road, probably from the time frame of 11 o'clock to about 5 p.m. We have, it's usually a very heavily attended event. We get a lot of students back and forth. There's a lot of sporting events. We have a lot of students and pedestrians transversing between our field, alumni field and 4 acres, and the main thoroughfare is right across Tibbet Avenue. We would have, we provide our own barricades. They'd be manned throughout the whole event by Horace Mann Public Safety. Of course, we'd allow through traffic for any residents that need to get through, and for any emergency vehicles.
Peter, can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Were there any issues in the past?
No, it went very well. The last
How
time.
many parking spots will be taken?
Excuse me?
How many parking spots will be taken?
On that side, I believe there's 28, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And did you inform the community about the event?
Yes, the Fieldston community was notified.
Okay. How?
It was an email sent out to the community by the Director of Public Safety, Mike McCaw.
Sure, public safety. Okay.
And also, they know about it. We have an agreement also with the Fieldston community for 10 events a year that they allow parking in the community. So this is one of those events. So they were also notified, this is one of those events where they also.
Is there an emergency lane? Peter, is there an emergency lane for emergency vehicles?
Yes, we would open it up for emergency vehicles.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. So I'd like to make a motion. Any questions? Thank you, Peter. We'd like to open it for questions.
Sure.
How are the neighbors, the homeowners notified? Because I don't believe you have every homeowner's email address, so do you
No,
post signs, mailing, how do you?
It's generally sent, Mr. McCaw will send it to Jerry Staples, who's their security representative. He notifies the board. And I believe my security director, I believe, notified the board as well. They're notified of the event, being that it's one of the 10 days as well, and they put it out to their community.
Go ahead.
Hi, do you have, a policy or guidelines for parents for idling? Just in the first couple of weeks of school, I can already tell that parents are idling up and down the neighborhood for 20, 30 minutes at a time. And
Yes.
just with this kind of event, parents coming to pick up their kids, just to have cars idling, I'm wondering what your policy is, and I'm sure it's a practice of enforcement, but just wondering.
Yes, we do have a policy for idling vehicles. We put out a traffic safety memo to all our divisions, forwarded to all the parents of the students in those divisions, and it instructs them not to idle while they're waiting to pick up their parents. Generally, the first few weeks of school, it's kind of a learning curve for the parents. We get a lot of new parents coming into the school every year, so it kind of takes a while for them to get on board with our parent pickup procedures. So, anything you see now hopefully will improve, and we definitely address that as time goes on.
But they'll be advised for this event?
Yes, we will. We'll make sure.
The question.
Two questions. I'm not sure I heard you correctly. You're closing the street to vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic? Did I hear that correctly?
No, just vehicular traffic.
Just so people can walk up and down? They can?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. At the end of Tibbet, there were 7 or 8 houses, so
Yes. Oh, yes,
to
we'll have.
not have pedestrian access would not be smart. Okay, so pedestrian access is allowed.
Yes.
Okay, then I go back to, this is Fieldstone Property Owners Association. I would respectfully request that we get notification from them of their position. I think it's,
if I could just.
excuse me, just let me finish, and then you can have the whole thing.
Oh, I'm
okay?
sorry, I apologize.
They are a significant group in the community, hundreds of houses, and this affects them. Big or not, I would like to hear, I personally, and I think this committee should hear from them personally, what their position is on this.
The office will reach out to the Fieldstone property owners. Yes, they have a committee.
I asked it, well.
Peter, do you have any answer to that?
No, I just to clarify, Tibbet Avenue is outside the Fieldstone property owners community.
Understood.
That's city property. And right, the next street over is College Road, and it's an easy thoroughfare for any Fieldstone residents to go down that way, and that won't be affected at all.
Thanks. Mary Ellen?
I've been on this committee a long time, and this event, I voted on it a lot of times, and there's been no problems with the community, the property owners or anything else, no complaints, and it's been a good event.
Yes. Thank you for that. I do.
Well, just that, Peter, your presentation earlier, it sounded like you were communicating with FPOA to make sure that those owners on Tibbet and College Road were aware of this, but now it sounds like you're saying it's outside of FPOA, so therefore, who are you, and how are you communicating with those 8 or 10 residences?
Yes, no, it is. Being that, like I mentioned earlier, that we use Fieldstone property owners allows us to park for 10 of our major events throughout the year. We've had an agreement with the Fieldstone property owners since May of 2014. So they're notified of any big event that we have that may affect, the traffic flows of the community. So they're notified of all of our large events.
That's not the question I asked, sir. You say you're dealing with FPOA, which I'm sure you are, but it sounds like you're explaining that 8 or 10 houses are north of the FPOA boundaries. So how are you communicating with them and getting their buy-in? Your neighbors are entitled to be aware of such inconveniences well in
Yes.
advance.
Yes. Like I said, Mr. McCaw had put communications out to the I believe the Fieldston board.
Okay. I don't know who Mr. McCaw is, but it sounds like you're suggesting he's an FPOA person. So I'll ask for a third time. How are you communicating to the residences outside FPOA?
Oh, the Fieldston residents outside of the FPOA. We could.
Any residents,
Yes.
probably north on Tibbet Avenue and College Avenue.
Right. We could reach out to those residents right there on, between College Road and 240 and Tibbet Avenue right there, outside of the Fieldston community.
We can't vote on it until.
Right.
That's my point.
That's my point. So let them know that.
Peter, we can't vote on this until those conditions are met.
Okay. All right. We'll do that.
Yeah.
I think we, vote on it with a condition in that he gets back to us the information from the homeowners.
Do you think you could satisfy that condition within
Yes.
2 weeks?
Now, just to be clear, you want it from the Fieldston property owners or from the community right outside of
Yeah, both.
Fieldston, that's right there? You have those couple of houses that back up to Tibbet Avenue. Is that the?
Both in and out.
Any residents
in that vicinity.
Okay.
affected.
All right, so just to notify them of this event. Yes, we will do that.
If you can, that'd be great.
Yes.
And their acknowledgement that they're aware of it
Okay,
with no major issues, which they probably don't have major issues, but they deserve to know that.
Okay.
okay. Sure.
So I would make
Made a
a
motion to
motion to move on it forward on the
vote
condition.
on it, and then with the condition that he responds
He
to
addresses
all
that.
the requests that are made tonight.
We have a second. Go ahead. Great. So having seconded, I would approve that. So we will make a resolution for the.
Well, yeah, so you gotta vote,
Oh, actually,
and we have to speak to the resolution, okay?
all in favor of we need the resolution, okay. All right, all against. Let's open the ground for discussion.
You discuss before you vote.
Rosemary, you have a, point?
We voted already, so it's,
It's a moot point.
We have to move forward. So a resolution will be drafted.
would Sylvia vote? I don't know if.
Sylvia? Sylvia?
In favor.
Sylvia,
Okay,
It was in the Education Committee last year, and it was a very successful event, and I'm all for it.
okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to move on to the next Casa Tabala Corporation. Yeah, it was deleted, but it's put back in the agenda. If everyone, yeah, there was
I think that deserves an explanation, no?
there was a mix-up in the, when they submitted the drawing, the DOT submitted the wrong drawing. If you have that packet with you, Tabala did submit the proper drawing, and then the DOT put the incorrect drawing. And subsequently today, they put the correct drawing in the application. So it was rectified today. It was taken out earlier, and as of a few hours ago, it was rectified. Yes, Rosemary?
Okay, so what was in the package that was given was a restaurant in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, okay? Not even close.
That's correct. It was-
And it was taken out on Tuesday and scratched off the agenda. Today at 1 o'clock, there was an email that said a correct map was put in. That was 1 o'clock. It's not on the agenda. right? And it's 7 o'clock meeting, and I think this is a mistake to vote on something that is clearly incorrect. What was on the agenda was scratched off. We should not be voting on things that are slipped in an email at 1 o'clock when we meet at 7 o'clock. Nobody in the community, whether people in the community have something to say or not, we're about notice to the community. And this was scratched off, it was taken off the agenda, and at 1 o'clock it went on through an email. I object to this even being considered by the committee. Having said that, the committee can vote the way the committee wants. But I will not vote for this, and I believe it is not appropriate to do.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Does this have to be voted on by a certain time, like by October or December, like this?
Is there a deadline to
Is
it?
there a time limit that this has to be in?
I think that's the,
10/28, and there's no meeting in October.
Why is there no meeting in October?
Because of how Jewish holidays.
there's no TNT meeting.
No TNT.
Right.
Would anyone like to respond to Rosemary's point?
Have there been any issues with this restaurant?
Don't miss my point. It's inappropriate for us to do it, okay? It is, you just don't, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, by an email, put something in front of us and we vote on it. It's inappropriate notice to the community, it's inappropriate, it is not in accordance with the way we do our business on this community board.
Could I say something?
So I have a problem with the process. The process is wrong. I won't vote for it.
I'm with, Rosemary because, when it came in at 1 o'clock this afternoon, I did look at, the issue and, could not decipher what it said because it was printed so small. It's not something that went out to the community, and I think that, that should have been done, and, therefore, it wasn't on the agenda, and we should table it for another time.
It has to be.
I don't know what the date is.
It has to be voted on and submitted by a certain time in order for the restaurant to be able to have their tables.
And what is that date?
Wait, we're still listening.
I have the floor, Sylvia. I make a motion to put it back on the agenda because it's important to vote on it tonight, because otherwise the restaurant will be out of luck on their tables outside.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Would anyone like to follow up that there was not enough notice to the community and that Rosemary suggested it should be off the agenda?
I concur with Rosemary, and I make a motion to add it to the board agenda at the October meeting, as TNT is not meeting in enough time to give them an answer, because we won't convene again until November.
We won't convene till November, right?
And it's due by the end of October, so I would make a motion to have this added to the community board, full board meeting.
Can I just add something?
Luisana.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so I think there was a little bit of confusion because when we submitted, we just submitted the right application. Something must have happened with the DOT or the dining out program. So we fix it as soon as we find out. That's why we send the email today. But when we found out that we were crossed off the agenda, we try to fix it and get in contact with DOT. It's not that we just put in this out there so you guys can prove it. We are actually prepared for this. We were prepared for this meeting. We just didn't know what was happening. I don't know if that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I guess I understand the process point. My My concern is that the business did the right thing, they're in good standing. This is a continuation of what already exists, no? There's no difference, it's just a continuation, but they have to have an approval in order to move forward.
Correct.
So if, like, I understand, and there is a deadline, unless there's information I don't have about the business or the application or any community feedback or complaints by the 5-0 or anything like that, I wouldn't want to penalize them for DOT's slip up.
It was out of their hands.
Right.
Thank you.
So I think we should address Rosemary's point, and we will try and have better communication. Moving forward, this is a slippery process, and the application process can be difficult. But to speak, Mary Ellen Kelly, your point, I think we should vote to put it back on the agenda. All those in favor?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Second it. And
You got.
all those against? Rosemary Kelly?
I'm against.
And
Sylvia?
Four.
Passes.
It passes.
On the agenda.
Is on the agenda. And now, it's on the agenda.
Second.
Vote, second. So, and are there any questions about the application?
Well, after the committee. Sorry.
Well, you made a motion to review the Tabala application. Committee, any questions? Okay.
Motion to vote. Call the vote.
Yeah, I do have a question. Two, actually. Where exactly is it?
Riverdale Ave, as you go up the hill before the stoplight.
Timber.
Next to Yo Burger.
Next to Yo Burger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, generally, I'm opposed to the outdoor dining because of its interference with the community, and I normally would vote against it. But in this case, there aren't any residences within shouting distance of the location. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Make a motion to vote.
Please go ahead. Motion to vote. Second. And
Second, sorry.
all those against? Rosemary and Kelly.
I'm abstaining.
Sylvia, do you vote against?
Against.
Kelly abstained.
All right. I'd like to move on to any old business. Do you have anything?
Yeah. When I was on the committee last spring, I missed the meeting at which MTA presented their design for the elevator at the end of the one at 242nd Street. Seems fine generally, but I think it's a very, very serious mistake for them to place the elevator on the west side of Broadway, because I think that most of the people, while there are residences west of Broadway, I think the majority of the users of the 242 station, and moreover the elevator there, are going to be wheelchairs, strollers, walkers, and golf carts, golf hand carts, going into Van Cortlandt Park, and therefore the elevator should be set on the east side of Broadway.
Relocating the elevator?
Huh?
You want to relocate the elevator?
Yeah, they're only at a conceptual design stage. But, yeah.
It's not something you could shuffle around.
Sure you can. They put it on the east sidewalk rather than the west sidewalk. That's all. They can do it. They could, trust me, their engineers have told me, we can do anything. Just has to be the will and the budget.
forced to change plans.
Well, no, the cost of changing plans is not significant. It's, but excuse me, but the impact on the user community, I think, is very significant. Like I said, I think that most of the users of that elevator are going to want to go into the park, and to have them go a half a block north or a half a block south to get to a traffic light and then try to negotiate across 4 or 5 lanes to get to the east side of Broadway and get into Van Cortlandt Park, I think is not a very good idea, not reasonable. And I think we should ask, that CVH should ask MTA to rethink that element.
We'll have to have them in for discussion then.
Well, we can ask them.
Serious. It's not something you just juggle around. I'll try and reach out to the MTA.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Go ahead.
In line with that, wouldn't it be appropriate to do a feasibility study to even assess where people are going before we even propose moving an elevator? At the end of the day, if they have a handcart and they need to go somewhere, they're probably going to go down these stairs that they in the direction that they intend to go.
Of course. Well, you realize it's one big overpass and the elevator could be at either end.
Sure.
So to that extent, it's not a big deal. But if you think a population or utilization study is warranted, that's reasonable.
Good idea.
Because I'd be
absolutely.
curious to see how many people come down on buses along Broadway and get off and then get on the one train to go southbound rather than, I mean, there's certainly commuters going up.
Get on the one train to go, I'm sorry, my mistake. Yep.
And go southbound on the one train?
Yep.
We'll have to reach out to the MTA. Any other items of old business? I'd like to move on to new business.
My hand is up.
Anyone
please.
online? Jody?
Yes, hi.
Jody, do you have old
First-
business?
Yes, I do. It's kind of a blend of old and new and something Rosemary brought up. But first, congratulations, Chair Land, and a bit of condolences too. It's a lot of work to be a chair, so thank you for stepping up. I did see on the agenda that the commissioner was going to talk about current and upcoming projects, so I was hoping to bring this up then, but the agenda actually turned out to be about Bailey and Van Cortlandt Park South, which surprised me, and I was texting people who live down there saying like, hey, do you know about this? So I do agree with what a number of board members did say about making the agenda so people who live in the neighborhood know that it's related to their blocks and where they live. I would have come in much later for old business if I knew that there was only one topic that the commissioner was going to talk about. So with that said, this is an old business. I've been bringing this up periodically back when Deb Travis was chair. Edsel Avenue, the oval road that goes down to the Metro North Station, is a patchy mess. Snowplow season is coming again. They're going to start tearing up all the bad patches. We've had sinkholes there. The milling and repaving was supposed to happen in fiscal year 24, and I patiently waited. So we're in Q1 of fiscal year 25. Is there any information about what the milling and repaving schedule is for Edsel Avenue?
I don't have it. We'll have to reach out and get back to you.
Okay, because there's a secondary issue related to it, which I thought would have been addressed as well. There's an asphalt, I'll use the word curb generously. It's more like an asphalt berm that was put in I think the 70s, and it is broken. And so if you're familiar with Edsel Avenue, where it goes on that very steep slope past the houses, the water, when it rains, creates a river of fast moving water. And with that curb broken, that water is now going into Spuyten Duyvil Shorefront Park, where I am the registered steward of that park. And it has come down with such force that it has eroded out more than 300 feet of trails. which my volunteers and I have been restoring with the Parks Department. So if they aren't on a milling and repaving the entire street, perhaps repairing that broken asphalt berm. I've put a log in there to divert the water somewhat, but it really needs a more legitimate fix.
Thank you,
And I
Jody.
can send you videos or pictures if you would like.
Appreciate it. We'll look into it.
Okay, thank you very much.
In a similar vein to her first point, I'm not sure whether it's called Johnson Avenue or Palisade Avenue at that point, but that roadway immediately beneath the Henry Hudson Bridge, which is near what she's talking about, Edsel, has deteriorated very, very badly, and I am sure that DOT and/or MTA have been waiting for the construction above on the bridge to finish. But I think that we deserve an answer as to, okay, so when are you going to repave it?
Okay, we'll look into that repaving schedule.
Very good.
Yes, Chair Land, that was also on the same paving schedule. So there were a lot of things that in this Spuyten Duyvil neighborhood that was like, be patient, it's in the fiscal year after this. But, you know, budget cuts are affecting every agency, and I'm sure that Mayor Adams is going to come out with another November peg. So it would be great for the community if you could have the repaving, it's milling and resurfacing are two different things. So if you could have a meeting about what's scheduled for that, because they only post 1 week at a time, and I just can't be going on that every single week to see, are we next? Are we next?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Josh, may I bring something up?
New business.
I think Sylvia has something.
Oh, Sylvia, you have a question?
I just want to bring up a situation that Farah informed me about. She had gotten advice, and I don't know if you've also gotten advice from the mayor's office as to repaving the extension of Tibbet Avenue by JFK and 368. They are planning on doing it in December. And unfortunately, the way it said to me, they are going to just close off that street totally at the time that they repave it.
I don't know.
The school has 8 schools in the building. They have another entrance on the 4th floor in Marble Hill, but that would mean all the children would have to go through Marble Hill. That would be very disruptive for their community. And I hope that we can work together to work that out with SCA so that that doesn't happen. Perhaps they can do half, to allow the emergency vehicles and such to be there. Many of the children have cars. It is a kind of a scary situation, and I think
Sylvia,
we
we're gonna
both
have to cut
should
it
be
short.
on top of it.
Sylvia, we're gonna have to cut it short, but thank you. Look into it.
Gosh, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's my understanding that they are not closing the street during the day. It's being closed at night once the building is closed because the street is owned by the Department of Ed and not the DOT.
Oh,
So
that's
DOE
interesting.
is responsible. DOE is responsible for the street. And so what they're going to do is they're going to close off the street once the buildings close.
Okay.
And then the public will not be able to use the street, but it will always be open when school is in session or their school activities.
Okay.
That's very good news. Thank you.
You mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Motion to open the floor,
Oh, open the floor, what?
Or?
the public for new business. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Joe Ben Meir, first name Joe, last name Ben Meir. I'm here for 2 issues, one of them recent, one of them old. The recent issue is, on the Henry Hudson Parkway in front of my building, 3616 Henry Hudson Parkway, a big chunk of concrete.
3316?
3616. a big chunk of concrete fell off the highway. It is lying on the side. As a result, when it rains, a lot of mud is coming down from the highway underneath to the service road. Over time, more and more of this road can come and can affect the highway. I don't know if it is a state DOT issue, the Henry Hudson Parkway, or it is a city, but if you want, if it's okay, I can send a picture. Perhaps somebody can move it to the right person.
Sir, did you call 311 by any chance about it? Did you call 311 about that issue by any chance?
No, I did not. It is impossible to get to them. I thought they'll be here for something else. I mentioned
If you call 311, they'll take your complaint about it, and then you'll get a complaint number, and then you can submit it to our community board office, where they can follow up on that.
Can I send just a picture?
You can include it with your 311 submission.
Right.
Online.
And then you can see if it is a state issue. I mean, it's nothing major, but over time, more of the soil can come down. Right now, they get a lot of mud whenever it rains.
That's the way to start, so this way they have they'll have a paper trail. When you call them to 311, a complaint is recorded, and then when you send it to the board office, they will follow up with it.
Okay, you can do that, and a picture as well.
Yes.
The other issue, which is really more significant, is not new. There are two dead-end streets on 231st Street and 237th Street near the major digging. There are a lot of signs that are obsolete, and there is no legal parking there. People do park there, and every now and then police give tickets. They would like to make money, meet quotas or something.
Months before.
I was here sometime before, and this issue was raised.
Yeah,
You remember?
I remember, yes.
I sent pictures, and the previous team said, maybe some of us will take a look. They said the main issue is if there is sanitation cleanup or not. I do know, because I'm there very often, on the 237th Street, there is cleanup. So maybe you can leave the street sign cleanup sign and remove all the other signs. They're really not applicable. The bigger issue is on 237th Street. There is every two yards, there is another sign. No parking, not allowed to do this, not allowed to do that, business. The street there, that section hasn't been cleaned in years and years and years. It's almost like a junkyard for cars. It is next to Mavis, if you know the area.
Right.
So, really, those signs, every now and then police give tickets. And people park there every single day illegally.
We'll have to look into that.
I sent some pictures, already has them, I think.
Kelly, you had a comment?
Yes, I do have a comment. I will send a message to the office because this issue was raised with DOT. DOT did go to both sites.
That's right.
And they have the information. I don't recall what the resolution was, but actually, I do recall the resolutions, the signage was remaining. But I can ask the office to pull up that information.
Thank you, Kelly.
Would it be okay if someone from the DOT can come? I will show them, sign by sign. Is it possible to have somebody from this office or from DOT take it out?
You have to call the office. If you could, Farah's out, but in October, you'll have to call the office, and then we could schedule something with the DOT. Yes, it is a possibility, but we'd have to discuss it first later
We
here.
need already, this is the follow-up. They say send some pictures, and I did send some pictures. They say issue is primarily the Department of Sanitation, if they need to clean up. There is some cleanup on 237th Street, but there is a whole bunch of other signs that are obsolete, and there is no need for people to get it. I got the ticket myself, parking ticket.
Yes, that's a valid point. Thank you. We will.
On 237th Street, there is absolutely no cleanup.
We will look at it, yes.
So what should be the next step? After I send the pictures.
Could you call the office, Sarah, in October, and we'll try and set up a meeting. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here as a member of the general public. Speaking about 237th Street, I put in a petition with change.org about getting the street of 237th Street near Broadway, Koning to Stelladora Way. Celadora was a business that was there for over 70 years. It was a pillar in the Riverdale and Kingsbridge community. So I would like to try to petition that to get that taken care of. I received a phone call from someone from the Riverdale Press, Zenia Gonzalez, and she actually interviewed me. So I feel like it's a very important thing to get taken care of.
Also, the Channel 12 called in my house, and you didn't call them back, because Channel 12 was following up the story.
Yeah, Miriam.
Wouldn't we have to, put it on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss it?
I think it should be studied. I
Doesn't
think,
have to complete the application yet, yeah.
yeah, I think an even broader picture, it's like a landmark in the community, so, it's not just a street, it's a location.
You read the article in the River Press, he didn't even tell me he was interviewed.
I remember the old
You saw
factory.
the article?
No, I remember the factory. Yeah,
The smell of the cookies and all that.
yes, yeah, so I understand that. Yeah, there's a street naming process.
With fudge cookies.
So, you have to do the application for the process.
You know how the son died, that's why the business went out of business? Because he was in college. You should have put that on, he was in college. Can I talk or I'm interrupting? His son was the one that was taken care of, and he was in California, and that was during the Yankees playoffs. So he never left the office early, and that day he left the office early because of the Yankee game, and he got caught on the bridge and he died.
Oh, wow.
And you didn't put that on there.
That would, yeah, we would, yeah, that would add more to the story. Sure. Local history.
And it's
Mary has her hand up.
Sonora because he put a lot of people that we knew, kids.
Sure, sure.
College, you know, there was all kinds, they made it even Jewish. The cookies are farvey, you know, so, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk or not.
You are, of course. Thank you. Thank you. Rosemary.
Okay, so, I want to, advise you and give a suggestion. There is a big background history on this board about naming a street after a business. I'm not gonna go into detail, go to Farah, there are files on it. David, you may remember, it was the, Losers. And, so there's a big background history, legal, research, et cetera. So just
The big
do
process.
the research, okay?
What about the one that was just named back for the carrot cake?
It was a woman.
It's for
That was
the,
a woman.
It's the husband of.
the Adams, not Lloyd's Carrot Cake.
The business, not the business.
No, the owner.
It was about a service.
We don't do,
Maybe forget it about
And we,
the actual owner.
any other,
research, you'll see.
Yeah.
any other items of new business?
Nope.
Anyone online? Any comments, new business? Adelina? Okay, with that, motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.